Let me turn to Dr. Alok Patel. He's a pediatrician and medical journalist in San Francisco Bay Area. Dr. Patel, what do you make of what President Trump is saying about his COVID-19 treatment? He's calling it a cure. Is it a cure?
Well, Asi, it's not a cure. And I think it's important for there to be a level of transparency because the public is really leaning on national leaders for hope right now. There is no FDA-approved cure for COVID-19. It just doesn't exist. This is more of a therapy, and it's not even an accessible one for 99.9% of Americans.
This hasn't even been approved by the FDA, has it?
It hasn't. And the president got it through a compassionate use, and we don't really know that full story either. So what I would hate to happen is somebody out there to think, you know what, I might be okay because there is a cure for COVID-19 that is accessible to me, when in reality, not only is that not true, but 30 to 40 million Americans don't even have health insurance. And so people don't have the same level of healthcare access that our president does. So it's just not a very relatable thing for him to say.
Trump also says he's very eager to get back on the campaign trail. But Dr. Patel, isn't he still infected? Isn't he sick still? Is that a good idea to get back on the campaign trail? Because he could potentially get sicker and get other people sick.
Well, it depends on whom you ask, because people on his side are saying that he is clear to go. And the reason why public health officials and journalists are consistently asking about the last negative test or the last day of symptoms is because we would like to definitively know that answer if he's safe to travel. Now, the president is only one person, but people also have to wonder about his entourage and everyone who's traveling with him. We've seen the White House have 10 or more cases already. So who else could potentially be infected heading to Florida, heading to the rallies? Who is asymptomatic or pre-symptomatic? I mean, there's a lot more outbreaks that could happen if we're not really careful.
We're showing, I know you can't see, but President Trump on the balcony Monday night on the White House balcony after leaving Walter Reed, sort of taking his mask off very boldly. I just want to see what was going through your mind when you saw that.
We try to avoid what we call tabloid medicine or speculation. But everyone watching this, the president walking to Marine One, walking out of the hospital, walking on the balcony, we're watching to see if he really is fit. And that's not because we're trying to speculate about his personal health or violate his privacy. It's because we want to know, is he still infected? Can he get people around him sick as well? And also, this is President Trump's moment. It may have passed. It depends on whom you ask, to actually make a responsible, humbling statement about the virus and not try to show strength and say that he overcame it, even though he came out and told people don't be afraid of COVID-19. I think the balcony was probably more of a spectacle than it was any other type of responsible statement.
And what do you make of these so-called news conferences by his medical team, by Dr. Conley? And I'm not asking you to criticize the doctor himself, but the level of information or lack of information we're getting from these news conferences is certainly unusual, and they're citing HIPAA privacy rules.
And HIPAA privacy is a real thing. It doesn't matter who the person is. It could be the president of the United States. HIPAA is real. The thing that was kind of confusing is that they seem to cherry pick the types of information they wanted to release. They have the right to do that, but they also need to understand why to the general public it comes across as possibly misinformation and not all the right details. I think people on both sides just need to actually increase the amount of transparency. And if they don't want to give out any information about the president, they at least need to understand why the general public wants to know not only the health of the president, but also if he's still infected and if people around him could be causing potential outbreaks. I think the dodging, the fact that they won't clearly answer when there was a last negative test, they won't answer things about the president's last symptoms. There was misinformation about the hours at which he was diagnosed, his oxygen level. All of that has created this air of misinformation about the news conferences, and that's not helpful.
And finally, Dr. Patel, you and I have talked about this before, vaccines. Health and Human Secretary says U.S. could have enough COVID-19 vaccines for every American as early as March. How realistic is that?
Well, Asia, that sounds like a lofty goal. And what I would love to know is, first of all, where is the FDA in all this? Because the minute the vaccine is FDA approved, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to have widespread distribution. And is it one dose? Is it two doses? Is it going to be free for every American? And people also need to be realistic and understand that even if a vaccine is available for everyone, it still could be a potentially long amount of time before everybody gets a vaccine and builds up enough herd immunity so we can see some level of normal. So it's more about the long-term goal as opposed to thinking that a vaccine is a silver bullet.